I always thought I knew my husband. We had been together for 10 years, and during that time I had never doubted his loyalty. Alex seemed like the perfect man, attentive, caring, intelligent. He supported me in everything, and I believed that we had a truly strong marriage. But that evening, everything changed. I returned from a business trip a day early. The layover in Frankfurt went faster than expected, and I was able to get on an earlier flight. I didn't tell Alex. I wanted to surprise him. He always said he missed me when I was away, so I imagined how happy he would be to see me. When I entered the house, I noticed that the light in the living room was off. Strange. Alex always left the lamp by the entrance when he waited for me. I took off my shoes to be quiet and went into our bedroom. The door was only slightly ajar, and from there came soft sounds, muffled laughter, hoarse breathing. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest, as if in a panic attack. I opened the door and froze in place. On our bed, in our bedclothes, under the blanket that had slid to the floor, lay a naked woman. And next to her was my husband. He looked at me with wide eyes, as if he had seen a ghost. My mistress also raised her head, but instead of panic, a smile appeared on her face. "Oh, are you back already?" she said in a gentle tone, not at all embarrassed by the fact that I had found them. I felt a heat seize me. My hands began to tremble. "What does this mean?" My question sounded almost like a scream. Alex sat up in bed, ran his hand over his face, as if trying to wake himself up. "It's not what you think, Alice. It's not what I think." I felt a lump in my throat. "You're in my bed with another woman." I looked at her. She was young, no older than 25. Dark hair fell in waves over her shoulders, and a mysterious smile played on her lips. "Alex, who is she?" The man sighed and finally answered. "It's Lauren. She's our mutual friend." I looked at him, stunned. "Our what?" "Alice, I wanted to tell you, it's just, you were on a business trip." I couldn't believe he was saying that. "Tell me what? What are you cheating on me with in our own bed?" Lauren leaned forward, looking me straight in the eye. "You're so tense, Alice. You need to relax." I couldn't take it anymore. My heart was pounding, so hard it felt like it was going to explode. "Get out of my house!" I screamed, but Lauren didn't even move. Instead, Alex got out of bed, as calm as a boa constrictor. "Alice, you're exaggerating. We need to talk." I stepped back. "There's nothing to talk about." But before I could take another step, Lauren said something that made my blood run cold. "But we're not done yet, love." I stared into her face and suddenly realized she wasn't afraid of me. She didn't look like she had done anything wrong at all. Alex was silent, and I realized this was just the beginning of a nightmare. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching them, unable to believe this was really happening. My heart was pounding in my chest, and my head was spinning, wondering how Alex could look at me so coldly, as if I were a stranger. "Are you finished yet?" My words were almost a whisper, but the echo in my ears was deafening. Lauren stretched out in bed, taking her time to cover herself, and smiled. "I just said that the evening would be more enjoyable if you joined in." I almost felt sick. "Alex," I looked at my husband again, expecting some kind of explanation. "Are you crazy?" He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Alice, I wanted to tell you. But you're always busy, always." "Telly!" I took a step forward, clenching my fists. "Tell me what?" "That you turned our marriage into a farce." His face remained emotionless. "Lauren and I," she helped me find myself. I felt the ground disappear from under my feet. Find myself. In our bed. Alex looked at Lauren and smiled sadly. "I didn't expect you to come back so soon." I took a step back. "How can you talk about this so calmly? Do you at least understand that this is the end?" Alex tilted his head. "The end? Are you sure?" "Absolutely." I barely managed to suppress my trembling. "Pack your things and go to hell." Lauren suddenly laughed. "Honey, you're wrong." I slowly turned my head to her. "Am I wrong?" She reached for the silk robe, lying on the floor, and casually pulled it over herself. "This is my home as much as yours." My heart beat even faster. "What did you say?" Lauren sighed and looked at Alex. "You didn't tell her?" He looked at me silently. "Alex!" "I decided it was time for a change, Alice." His voice was calm, as if he were explaining the weather outside the window. And Lauren is helping me move forward. My mind exploded with indignation. What the hell, Lauren? Lauren laughed again. Alex has already filed for divorce. My skin turned icy. Lies. She shrugged. Check your mail. I ran out of the bedroom, almost unconscious. I took out my phone and opened the mail with shaking hands. And there was a letter from the lawyer. Alex had indeed filed for divorce. The world flashed before my eyes. I heard footsteps behind me. Alice, you have to accept this. His voice was almost gentle. We'd better part ways peacefully. I lifted my head to look at him. Peacefully? Lauren already lives here, he said as if it were a given. This is not your home anymore. In that moment, I realized I never knew my husband. But the worst was yet to come. I don't remember how the night went. After Alex's shocking confession and Lauren's words, everything became a blur. My thoughts were confused, my heart was pounding, and my hands were shaking so much that I could barely gather my things. I didn't stay in the house. I just couldn't. This home where I felt safe, where I thought I had a family, turned out to be an illusion. In an instant, everything fell apart. I drove to the hotel. I sat in the dark all night, not understanding how this had happened. Why had Alex so calmly announced the divorce? Why had this woman felt like the mistress there? Why had it all happened so suddenly? When I finally fell asleep, I had nightmares. And then the doorbell rang. The clock showed 6:27 a.m. I answered without even looking at the caller ID. Hello, Miss Alice Williams. The man's voice was formal, cold. Yes, this is Detective Carter from the police department. We need you to come to your house immediately. I sat up in bed, completely awake. What happened? Come here as soon as possible. The line went dead. I could barely contain the panic that was surging through me. Was Alex trying to make me look crazy? Or was Lauren planting some kind of false evidence to take away my right to the house? I quickly got dressed and hailed a cab. My thoughts shifted, confused as I drove. When I arrived, my house was surrounded by yellow tape. Cops. Cars. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I pushed my way through the crowd. Mrs. Williams, a tall man in a dark coat, approached me. His piercing gaze made me stop. What happened here? He sighed. A body was found in your bedroom. I was almost speechless. What? Your acquaintance, Lauren Baker. She's dead. My world shook again. I took a step back, as if those words had shocked me. No. That's impossible. Unfortunately it is, the detective said coldly. And now you're going to have to answer a few questions. He paused before uttering the next words that broke me completely. Because all the evidence points to you. I felt as if I had been torn from reality. My ears were ringing. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was about to burst. You! Are you accusing me? My voice broke into a hoarse whisper. Detective Carter didn't blink. We're just figuring out what happened. But right now, all the evidence points to you. This is some kind of mistake. I took a step back, but 2 police officers were already standing behind me, blocking my path. The body of a woman with whom you had a conflict was found in your house. Your prints are on the doorknob, on the bed linen, on the glass by the bed. Because I lived here. This is my house. My voice broke, but no one reacted to it. The detective continued. The cameras recorded you leaving the house late at night. No one else was coming out. I shook my head, trying to gather my thoughts. But it was Alex. This is his house too. Your husband? Yes, we've already spoken. He said the last time he saw Lauren alive was when he went to bed. And that you two had an argument. I put my hands on my head. This is some terrible mistake. You're supposed to be talking to Alex, not me. Carter stared at me in silence. Your t-shirt was found in the laundry basket. It's all covered in blood. I froze. This is impossible. You better come with us to the station. No. Look, I didn't do this. Alex is hiding something. Mrs. Williams, if you don't leave voluntarily, we're going to have to arrest you. I looked around. Yellow tape, camera flashes, police. The feeling of unreality became unbearable. And then I saw him. Alex was standing aside by the car. His eyes met mine. And he smiled. Barely noticeable. Cold. Then I realized this was a trap. He had set me up. I couldn't take my eyes off Alex. His smile disappeared as quickly as it had come, but I could already see it. He was enjoying it, enjoying the fact that I had just been accused of murder. Alice Williams, you are under arrest on suspicion of the murder of Lauren Baker. Detective Carter began to read me the law, but I could barely hear him. An inner voice screamed, "Run." I looked around. The police had already taken a step forward, preparing to handcuff me. If I let them, it would be over. I scanned the crowd. Reporters, neighbors, passers-by. If they put me in the car, it would be the end. I took a sharp step back, as if in panic, and pretended to faint. I can't, I stammered, staggering. Detective Carter moved forward to hold me back. And then I broke away. I ran as fast as I could, breaking through the crowd. The police shouted something, and I almost tripped over the reporter's camera, but I kept running. From somewhere behind me, I heard shouts. "Stop her! She's running!" But I had only seconds to spare. I dashed across the neighbor's yard, jumped over the low fence, and ran down the narrow street. Desperation and panic drove me forward. If they caught me, I wouldn't be able to fight anymore. I ran until I was out of sight of the police. I was a fugitive now, but I wasn't going to hide. I was going to find the truth, find a way to prove that Alex killed Lauren, and if necessary, destroy him. My lungs were burning, my legs were barely holding me up, but I didn't stop. Every cell in my body screamed for danger. I was being followed. The police, Alex, maybe even those who worked for him. All I knew was that I couldn't let them catch me. I made it to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town and huddled in a dark corner, trying to control my panic. I had to act before they blocked off all the exits from the city. The first thing I did was get my phone. "Alex, you played your part perfectly. But you know I won't stop. I will find the truth. And when I do, your life will be ruined. You won't escape." I hadn't intended to send the message. I just typed it to feel some illusion of control. Then I deleted it. I opened my browser and began searching for information. Who was Lauren Baker? What I learned made me shiver. She had appeared in Alex's life just a few months before my trip. I was scrolling through her social media until I came across one interesting detail. A year ago, she had been dating a man named Mark Evans. He was dead, died under strange circumstances. Something about this seemed familiar to me. I started searching further and came across another story. Another woman, another city, same scheme. A woman meets a man, he suddenly dies, and she disappears without a trace. A cold sweat covered my back. Lauren wasn't the first. But if that's the case, then who was manipulating whom? Was Lauren part of Alex's scheme? Did he use her the same way he wanted to use me? Either way, one thing was clear. Alex wasn't who he seemed. And I had to find a way to prove it before he wiped me off the face of the earth. I sat in the dark corner of the abandoned warehouse, staring at my phone screen. My hands were shaking, not with fear but with rage. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't the first time Alex had done this. Lauren was part of his game, or a victim, just like me. But what if she was also a manipulator? What if they had worked together until something went wrong? I needed more information. I decided to start with Mark Evans, her previous boyfriend. He was a businessman, just like Alex. He had died suddenly in an accident. But there was another story that worried me even more. Melissa Gray, the wife of a successful lawyer. A year ago, she had been found dead in her own home. Her husband, Brian Gray, was the prime suspect. All the evidence pointed to him, just as everything pointed to me now. He was sentenced to life in prison. I found his case file and almost screamed when I saw a familiar name. The prosecuting attorney was Alex Williams. My heart raced. Alex had put another man in prison for a murder he might not have committed. This was no coincidence. I dialed Brian Gray's number. His attorney had left his contact information in the public records, and I prayed he would agree to speak with me. 3 rings. 4. Hello. The voice on the other end was dull, muffled. Brian Gray. Who is this? I took a breath, trying to hide my excitement. My name is Alice Williams. My husband is Alex Williams. Silence. I don't know who you are. He framed me, just like he framed you. The silence stretched. Where are you? Brian finally asked. I swallowed. On the run. If this is a trap, I'll find out. It's not a trap. Silence again. I want to help you, I said. But I need your help, too. Brian exhaled. Okay. If you really want to solve this puzzle, I'll tell you where to start. I felt like I had taken the first step toward the truth, but also toward even greater danger. Alex is more than just a manipulator. Brian's voice was low, almost doomed. He's a killer. I gripped the phone tighter, trying to hide the trembling in my hands. Are you sure? I'm sure I didn't kill my wife. But Alex did everything he could to make it look that way. He paused for a moment, then added, and if he framed you like that, you're in serious danger. I closed my eyes. Why would he do this? He preys on women. He chooses those who seem like perfect targets to him. I took a deep breath. Target for what? Brian was silent for a few seconds, then said quietly, for the perfect crime. My heart sank. Explain. He's first trying to build trust, playing the perfect man. But then he finds someone on the side. It's just part of the game. He needs her to create conflict. Before his legitimate wife or fiancé knows what's going on, he manipulates her. He makes her seem like the perfect culprit. And then the body turns up. I finished for him. Exactly. I put my head in my hands. But why? Because he likes it. He likes to ruin lives. He likes to watch people lose everything. My throat went dry. He puts innocent people in prison. He doesn't just put them in prison. He does it in a way that leaves no chance of exoneration. I remembered that faint smile of his again. You said you knew where I should start. Find evidence. Alex is very careful, but he's not omnipotent. If he framed you, there's a mistake somewhere. Your job is to find her before he destroys you. My breathing became uneven. But how? Do you have access to his email? I remembered that I knew something about his old laptop. There's a chance. Okay. Also, find out everything you can about the women he was with before you. Lauren wasn't the first. And if you dig into his past, you'll find a lot of interesting things. Do you think he killed them too? I think he killed more people than you can imagine. I held my breath. And if you stop him, you'll be the first to do it. I nodded, though he couldn't see it. I'll do it. Be careful, Alice. If he finds out you're digging, he'll kill you. I ended the call and looked up. Alex wasn't just a manipulator. He was a monster. And now I had to find a way to destroy him before he destroyed me. I sat in the dark corner of the warehouse, digesting everything I had just heard. Alex hadn't just set me up. He'd spent years building the perfect scheme to destroy people's lives. But if he thought I was going to be his next victim, he was wrong. I had to find proof. The first step was to get to his old laptop. I remembered that Alex never got rid of his tech, even after he bought a new one. So he probably still had the old laptop somewhere in the house. But how could I get there? I was wanted. The police were probably combing the area looking for me. I needed help. I went through my phone's contacts. Who could help me? Who could I reach out to without risking being turned in? Suddenly, one person came to mind. Rachel. She was a friend of mine from college. The only one who always told me that Alex wasn't who he said he was. We hadn't spoken much lately because Alex had tried to isolate me from everyone. I dialed her number, barely breathing. Hello. Her voice was surprised, but not hostile. Rachel. It's me. A few seconds of silence. Oh my God. Alice, what's going on? The police are looking for you. I closed my eyes. I know, but please listen to me. I didn't kill Lauren. This is a pretext. I knew it. I always knew that scumbag was hiding something. I almost cried with relief. I need help. Anything, tell me. I need to get into the house. Alex has an old laptop there. If I find it, maybe I'll find evidence of his crimes. Rachel didn't hesitate for a second. I have an idea. You know there's chaos in town right now because of an accident on a major highway. No. The police are out there. This is your chance. If you act quickly, you can get into the house while they're busy. I grabbed the opportunity like a lifeline. I need transportation. I'll be at your place in 15 minutes. Where are you? I explained quickly, then turned off my phone so they wouldn't track him. 15 minutes later, a black sedan pulled up outside the warehouse. Rachel leaned out the window, her eyes full of determination. Get in. Time to show this bastard he underestimated us. I got in the car, feeling like I wasn't alone for the first time in a long time. We drove off. I didn't know what was waiting for me in the house, but I was ready for anything. Rachel raced through the city streets, expertly maneuvering between cars. Her fingers were gripping the steering wheel tightly, her eyes focused. "We'll be there in 10 minutes, she said, her eyes fixed on the road. "But are you sure you can get in?" I nodded tensely. Alex never changed the code to the back door. "If I'm lucky, it'll stay the same. And if not, then we'll have to improvise." Rachel looked at me skeptically. "Do you realize that you're the city's top criminal now? All the news is about you." I closed my eyes, feeling a chill run down my spine. "He did it perfectly. But you can prove your innocence." She stepped firmly on the gas. "We'll find that laptop." We sped down a few more streets, and finally Alex's house came into view. "That's it," I muttered. The yard was dark. No sign of police, no cars. "It looks quiet," Rachel said. "That's what's scary." She stopped the car a few blocks away. "I'll wait here. If anything goes wrong, call." I nodded and took a deep breath as I slipped out of the car. The house was perfectly quiet. I made my way to the back door and punched in the code. Nothing. Damn. I tried again. Finally, there was a click. He didn't change the code. I slipped inside and froze, listening. Silence. Lifting my head, I climbed to the second floor. Alex's laptop was always in the office. I opened the door and stepped inside. And at that moment, I heard the lock click behind me. I turned around sharply. Alex was standing in the doorway. He was smiling. "I knew you'd come, my love." My insides went cold. What are you doing?" "I was waiting for you." He stepped forward, and I automatically stepped back. "Did you think you could trick me?" I glanced at the table. The laptop was there, but now I realized it was a trap. Alex lowered his head like a predator about to strike. "So, shall we play?" I clenched my fists, trying to hide my panic. Alex stood in the doorway, blocking the exit. His gaze was predatory, his smile cold, as if he had already won this game. "What do you want?" My voice trembled, but I didn't back down. Alex slowly tilted his head, as if he was examining me. "I want you to stop this circus." "Circus?" I couldn't believe his impudence. "You framed me for murder, and you still have the audacity to call it a circus." His smile didn't change. "You've always been stubborn, Alice. I like that about you." I took a small step back, my eyes measuring the distance to the table. "So what now? Are you going to kill me?" Alex laughed. "Why? The police are already hunting you. You don't even have to disappear. They'll do it for me." I tensed. "But if you're going to play detective," his gaze darkened, "that's a bad idea." I rushed to my laptop, but at that moment he grabbed my arm and jerked me back sharply. Ah! I almost fell, but Alex held me tightly. His fingers tightened around my hand like a vice. "You've always underestimated me." His voice was calm, even gentle. "Go to hell." I tried to break free, but he pushed me against the wall. "You're not going anywhere, Alice." My lungs tightened with fear. I tried to punch him in the stomach, but he dodged and easily grabbed my wrist. "Only those who have no chance of winning fight," he whispered in my ear. I felt something sharp prick my arm. "What are you?" My legs suddenly went numb. My body went limp. Alex supported me as I began to slide down. "She'll love. Everything will be okay." The last thing I heard before darkness engulfed me was his whisper. "The game is just beginning." Consciousness returned slowly, as if I were emerging from deep water. My head was buzzing, and my body was heavy as if filled with lead. I opened my eyes. Darkness. I tried to move, but my arms and legs wouldn't obey. Only after a few seconds did I realize that I was tied up. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I was in some room. There were no windows, only the weak light from the lamp under the ceiling. The smell of dampness and dust. Where am I? Woke up. My stomach clenched when I heard a familiar voice. Alex. He was sitting in the chair opposite me, calm and confident as always. What did you do?" My voice was weak, my throat dry. "Just giving you a break." He tilted his head, looking at me like I was some kind of interesting toy. I gritted my teeth. "That doesn't change the fact that you're a psychopath." He laughed. "Oh, Alice, can't you see? I'm in control. You could have just disappeared, just left forgotten. But no, you decided to play detective." I gritted my teeth, trying not to show fear. "The police will find me." Alex grinned. The police are looking for you, my love. And you know what? They'll be very surprised when they find your body. My heart sank. You. They already have all the evidence. You ran away on your own, which only confirmed your guilt. And now, he stood up and took a few steps toward me. I just have to finish this. I was frantically searching for a way out. My heart was beating wildly. I had to do something. His ropes. Damn. And then I realized one hand was not tied so tightly. I began to slowly move my fingers, trying to loosen the knot while Alex spoke. You were always smart, Alice. But this time you lost. I wasn't listening. I pulled my hand, feeling the rope slowly loosen. A little more. More. Clack. I pulled my hand away the same second Alex leaned toward me. Desperation made me faster. I elbowed him in the throat. He snorted, jerking back, clutching his neck. I didn't wait. I jerked my other hand away, then untied my legs. Run. Alex had not yet recovered when I rushed to the door. I jerked the handle. It's locked. Do you think it's that easy? Alex was already up, his face twisted in rage. I looked around. There was no window. One way out, but there was another option. I grabbed the lamp from the table and threw it at the mirror on the wall. Broken glass. I grabbed the largest shard, and as Alex rushed towards me, I stuck it in his shoulder. He cried out in pain. I used this moment to pull the keys out of his pocket. The door opened. I ran out into the hallway, not knowing where I was running to. All I knew was that I wouldn't stop. Alex wouldn't catch me again. Now I start hunting. I was running down the dark corridor, not knowing where I was. My legs ached, my breath hitched, but I didn't stop. Behind me came Alex's angry shout. Do you think you're going to escape? I didn't think, I acted. The door was at the end of the corridor. I pushed it open, running out into the night. I was in some abandoned building. High fences, thick bushes, old warehouses could be seen nearby. Where was I? But there was no time to think. I heard the door open again behind me. Alice! Alex's voice was full of fury. I rushed forward, making my way through the bushes. I needed to hide, find a phone, get in touch with Rachel. My breath was coming out of my chest in convulsive gasps as I ran between the buildings. I could see the road. If only I could get there. And then I heard a sound. A car. A black sedan pulling out from the other side of the yard. My heart stopped. Alex wasn't alone. I ducked behind the trash can, holding my breath. The car drove past without noticing me. I started to back away, slowly until I hit the wall of the warehouse. Okay, now what? I had to find a place to stop and think about a plan. And then I remembered. The laptop. I never got around to picking it up. But Alex certainly hadn't destroyed it in the past few hours. I had a chance. But to do that, I had to get back inside the house. I pulled out the shard of glass I was still clutching in my hand. I wasn't just running. Now I was hunting. A few hours later, I was sitting in the truck of a truck driver who had picked me up on the road. I pretended to be a hitchhiker who had lost her bag, and the driver didn't ask any questions. I took out the phone he had lent me and quickly dialed the number. Hello, Rachel. It's me, I whispered. Oh God, Alice. I saw the news. Where are you? It doesn't matter. I know how to destroy it. How? I took a deep breath. We're going back for the laptop. Rachel fell silent. It's suicide. No. It's the only way. She exhaled. Okay. I'm with you. I paused for a moment, then added. And one more thing. What? Bring the weapon. I was racing down the dark corridor, not knowing where I was. My legs ached, my breath hitched, but I didn't stop. Behind me came Alex's angry shout. Do you think you're going to escape? I didn't think. I acted. A door appeared ahead. I grabbed the handle, jerked it. Open. I jumped inside and quickly locked the door. Darkness. Only a faint light penetrated through a narrow crack in the ceiling. I looked around, inhaling the dust and the smell of dampness. What kind of place was this? I listened. Alex's footsteps echoed outside the door. Alice. His voice was almost gentle. Why complicate everything? I didn't answer. My eyes gradually got used to the darkness. It was like a basement or a utility room. A shelf of boxes, an old table, wood-paneled walls. I had to find something that would expose him. I quickly started to look through the boxes. Old papers, technical manuals. But then I came across something unusual. A folder of documents. I opened it and immediately felt my blood run cold. A list of women. Names, dates, addresses. I turned the pages, my heart pounding. Lauren Baker, Melissa Gray, Catherine Moreno, and many more. There were notes next to each name. Control established. Conflict provoked. Readiness 85%. I felt myself starting to feel sick. This wasn't just a list of victims. This was his plan. And at the end of the list, my name, Alice Williams. Scenario number 7. Final phase, 95%. My hands trembled. This is proof. This is undeniable proof that Alex is a serial killer. But at that moment the door slammed open. Alex was standing in the hallway. What did you find there? His voice was calm, but his eyes were filled with rage. I clutched the folder. Your game is over. He smiled. Do you think anyone will believe you? Now, yes. I rushed to the other exit, clutching the folder in my hands. Alex rushed after me. This night will be decisive. Either I destroy him, or he destroys me. I ran, clutching the folder that could change everything. Behind me came Alex's angry voice. You know this won't change anything. His words echoed in my mind. But I couldn't let him break me. The hallway led me to another door. I pushed it open and ran out into the night. Rain. Cold and piercing. I looked around. No one was running after me. Was he chasing me? It was strange. I rushed forward, clutching the folder under my jacket. I had to get to safety, find Rachel. But something was holding me back. Why didn't Alex rush after me? I was overcome by a foreboding. I walked to the nearest bus stop and pulled out my phone. The first thing I did was open the news and froze. The police are looking for the wife of the deceased lawyer Alex Williams. She is suspected not only of the murder of Lauren Baker, but also of an attempted attack on her own husband. Alex Williams himself gave an official statement in which he said that his wife suffers from mental disorders and has been violent for a long time. I was thrown into a fever. He had everything planned out. My hands clenched into fists. He didn't pursue me because he knew I was now a target. I gritted my teeth. If he wants a game, he'll get it. I dialed Rachel's number. Hello. Change of plan. My voice was cold. We're not just going to take the evidence. What happened? I looked at the headlines again. We're going to make sure the whole world knows who Alex Williams is. Rachel held her breath. What are you up to? I stood up. I'm going to meet the devil. I stood in front of the mirror in a cheap motel, staring at my reflection. My eyes were red with fatigue. My hair was messy. My face was scarred from the horror I had experienced. But I was no longer afraid. I knew what I had to do. Rachel was sitting on the bed, her phone clutched in her hands. Are you sure this will work? I nodded, stuffing the evidence folder into my bag. Alex thinks he's already won. He doesn't expect me to come to him alone. But it's a trap. Yes, I looked up at her. But it's a trap for him. Rachel sighed and ran her hands through her hair. You're crazy, you know. I became this way when he decided to destroy me. I pulled out my phone and dialed his number. 2 rings. 3. Alice. His voice was calm, even gentle. We need to talk. You do realize I could just call the police, right? I gritted my teeth. If you wanted me caught, they'd be here by now. A pause. You're starting to understand the rules of the game. Alex laughed. Meet me at the usual place. It's not your house anymore, my love. Not home. Le Mirage. 10 o'clock at night. And why would I come there? I took a breath. Because I have something that can destroy you. A long pause. Okay, he finally said. But if this is a trap, you won't live to see the morning. Reciprocity. I clicked end call. Rachel glared at me. Do you really want to go there? I picked up my bag. It's the only way to make him make a mistake. What if he kills you right there? I looked at her and smiled faintly. So you'll be there. Rachel sighed. Okay. What next? I straightened up. Then I'll look the devil in the eye. Le Mirage was luxurious and quiet, just the way Alex liked it. He always liked sophistication and control. Today he felt like he was in control. But this time he was wrong. I sat at a table in the far corner, clutching a glass of water. My hands were cold, but his gaze was firm. The door opened and he walked in. A reserved smile, a perfect suit, a slow, confident gait. He was still playing the part. "You look terrible," Alex said, sitting down opposite me. "You too," I smiled back. He raised a skeptical eyebrow. "So what do you have for me?" I slowly set the flash drive down on the table. "Evidence." He picked it up with 2 fingers as if it were some insignificant trifle. "And what's this?" "A list of your victims. Women you framed, destroyed, murdered. Including me." Alex tilted his head, studying me. "And what do you want?" "For you to confess." He laughed. "Seriously? Do you really think I'm that stupid?" I was silent. His smile widened. "You've got nothing, Alice. I've already made you guilty in the eyes of the whole world." I shrugged. "Maybe. But you're saying all this on camera now." His smile disappeared. I slowly picked up my phone, turning on the screen. Live broadcast. The comments poured in a continuous stream. "What's going on? Is that her husband? Damn, he just confessed himself." Alex's eyes darkened. "You." "Game over, Alex." He lunged forward, trying to grab the phone, but I was ready. The restaurant doors opened, and people rushed in. Cops. Reporters. Alex looked around, confused for the first time in his life. "You framed me. You framed yourself." I stood up, clutching the phone. "You thought you had everything under control. But I outsmarted you." The cops grabbed him. He wasn't smiling anymore. As they let him out the door, our eyes met. "You'll regret it, Alice," he hissed. I leaned closer and whispered, "See you in court." The next morning, the news broke. A shocking twist in the Lauren Baker murder case. It turns out her death was just one part of a series of crimes orchestrated by lawyer Alex Williams. His own wife, whom he tried to frame, exposed him live on air. I sat in my small motel room, staring at my phone. Social media was abuzz. "This is the solution. I always knew Alex was a bad guy. She's a queen. She beat the psychopath at his own game. I hope he rots in prison." My hands were still shaking. "You did it," Rachel said, tossing the newspaper onto the table. I glanced at the headline. "Manipulator Killer: How Alex Williams Spent Years Building the Perfect Crime Scheme." I sighed, running my hand over my face. "It's not over yet." "But you're one step ahead," she smiled. I nodded, scanning the news. Alex was facing life in prison. His case had been handed over to the best investigators. They were investigating all his past relationships, his missing women, his shady legal cases. He was no longer in control. And that was the sweetest punishment for him. Rachel sighed. "What now?" I met her gaze. "Now I'll make sure he gets the maximum sentence." The trial was a spectacle. The courtroom was packed with reporters, the television cameras capturing every moment. The public eagerly awaited the verdict. Alex sat at the dock, impeccably dressed, but no longer so confident. His eyes darkened with anger every time he looked at me. But this time he could not control the situation. I took the witness stand. "Mrs. Williams," the prosecutor said, "you claim that Alex Williams manipulated women for years, forcing them to become guilty of crimes that he himself organized. Do you have evidence?" I opened the folder and spread it on the table. "Yes." I handed the documents to the judge. "Here are the records found in his office. Lists of the women he manipulated, his own notes about each of them. Plans to destroy their reputations, to avoid suspicion." I looked at Alex. He thought he would always be one step ahead. But this time he lost. The prosecutor picked up the documents, flipped through the pages. "Your Honor, these materials confirm the victim's words. This is indisputable evidence of a series of crimes committed by Alex Williams." The judge flipped through several pages, his face serious. "Accepted as evidence." A commotion swept through the courtroom. I saw Alex clench his fists. For the first time, he looked truly confused. I leaned forward. "How does it feel to lose, my love?" He looked up at me sharply, his eyes filled with hatred. But now his hatred meant nothing anymore. The courtroom froze in tense anticipation. The judge rapped his gavel on the table, drawing everyone's attention. After considering all the evidence and hearing testimony, the court orders. I held my breath. Alex Williams has been found guilty of a series of crimes, including murder, framing an innocent person, and tampering with evidence. There was a buzz around the room, reporters frantically typing the news. I couldn't take my eyes off Alex. His face remained stony, but his eyes were filled with rage. Due to the gravity of the crimes committed, the defendant is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I finally took a breath. He lost. 2 guards approached him, handcuffing him. "It's not over yet," Alex hissed as he passed me. I leaned closer and whispered back, "It's over for you." He was silent as they led him out of the room. I sat up, feeling like I could finally breathe. Rachel squeezed my hand. "He'll never touch you again." I exhaled and nodded. I won. I stood on the ocean shore, breathing in the salty air. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. The news of Alex's trial had been going on for weeks. His name had become synonymous with brutal manipulation. His crimes had been exposed, and the women who had been affected had finally received justice. I had left town. Everything that reminded me of my old life was left behind. The phone rang. "Hello. How are you?" Rachel's voice was warm. I smiled. "I'm fine for the first time in a long time. The police have found even more evidence. It turns out that Alex has been manipulating the justice system for longer than we thought." I nodded, although she couldn't see it. "He's going to get what he deserves." Rachel sighed. "What now?" I looked out at the horizon. "Now I'm starting a new life." "And you'll never look back?" I smiled. "Never." When the call ended, I did the last thing I needed to do. I took out my phone and deleted the last photo of Alex and I together. The past is dead. I survived. I won. I'm free. The end.
Please subscribe to our channel Stellar Stories. We have new amazing stories coming out every day. Thank you.